Your core loses strength fast after 50. Do these 6 exercises to prevent it. The core is literally the foundation of every movement your body makes, and it starts to weaken at an accelerated pace after 50 years of age. Today, you will learn the 7 exercises that will reverse this process and maintain your stability, your posture, and your physical independence for decades to come. Before we get started, please leave a comment with your name and the city you are watching from. We would love to know. Exercise number 1. Dead bug. Few exercises have such an uninspiring name and at the same time such impressive effectiveness as the dead bug. The name comes from the starting position, which resembles an insect lying on its back with its legs in the air. This is one of the most recommended exercises by physical therapists and lower back rehabilitation specialists precisely because it works the core in a way that few people can achieve with conventional exercises. What makes this exercise particularly valuable is the fact that it trains the core in its real function. The core does not exist to make you bend your trunk forward repeatedly. It exists to stabilize the spine while the limbs move, which is exactly what happens when walking, climbing stairs, or carrying objects. The dead bug reproduces this in a safe and controlled way. After 50, the deep abdominal muscles, especially the transverse abdominis, tend to lose neural recruitment. This means the muscle still exists, but the nervous system stops activating it with the same efficiency. The result is lower back pain, instability while walking, and a higher risk of falls. The dead bug is one of the few exercises that safely reactivates this recruitment pattern. To perform it correctly, lie on your back on the floor with your arms pointing toward the ceiling and your knees bent at 90 degrees in the air, as if you were sitting in an invisible chair. Press your lower back flat against the floor, leaving no space between your back and the ground. This point is essential. Now, simultaneously lower your right arm toward the floor above your head while extending your left leg forward without letting it touch the ground. Return and repeat on the opposite side. Each repetition should be slow and deliberate, taking 3 to 4 seconds to lower and 2 to return. A mistake I see many people make is letting their lower back lift off the floor during the movement. The moment that happens, the exercise completely loses its purpose and begins to overload the very region you are trying to protect. If you feel your lower back coming off the floor, reduce your range of motion by extending the arm or leg less. Over time, your stability will improve and you will be able to reach the full range. Start with 3 sets of 8 repetitions on each side, resting 45 seconds between sets. When you can keep your lower back completely flat against the floor for all repetitions, progress to 10 to 12 repetitions per side. That is the sign your core is gaining real control. Contraindications. People with an active herniated disc or who feel pain when pressing the lower back against the floor should consult a physical therapist before starting. The position can be uncomfortable for those with very tight hips. Exercise number 2, mountain climber. The mountain climber is an exercise that combines core stability with cardiovascular demand. This combination is especially relevant after 50, when the body needs stimuli that work multiple systems at the same time without excessive joint impact. It intensely works the core as a stabilizer, but also mobilizes the hips, activates the shoulders, and progressively elevates the heart rate. It is a complete exercise disguised as a simple movement. Regular practitioners can notice improvement in both core muscular endurance and cardiovascular capacity within just a few weeks of consistent practice. What many people do not know is that the mountain climber, when performed at a moderate pace with a focus on posture, activates the deep core fibers far more efficiently than when done at maximum speed. The fast version becomes a cardio exercise. The slow version becomes a strength and stability exercise. For the goal of preserving the core after 50, the controlled version is the most appropriate. And do you know why this matters so much in this age group? The combined loss of cardiovascular capacity and core strength compromises quality of life at an accelerated rate. Having one exercise that works both at the same time, without equipment and without joint impact, is a real advantage in any routine. To perform it correctly, start in a high plank position with your arms extended, hands below your shoulders, and your body in a straight line from your head to your heels. Pull your right knee toward your chest without letting your hips rise or your lower back arch. Return and repeat with the left leg. Keep your hips parallel to the floor and breathe steadily. Common mistakes include letting the hips rise up like a mountain during the exercise, which removes tension from the core and transfers it to the shoulders, and letting the head drop between the arms, overloading the neck. If you feel discomfort in the wrists, support yourself on dumbbells placed parallel to the floor to keep the wrists in a neutral position. I recommend starting with 3 sets of 20 seconds, alternating sides. When postural control is solid, progress to 30 and then 45 seconds per set. The quality of each repetition is worth far more than the speed. Contraindications. People with shoulder impingement syndrome or rotator cuff tendonitis should avoid this exercise during the acute phase. Those with high blood pressure should perform it at a slow, monitored pace. Before we continue, if you're over 50, take a look at this statistic. According to the WHO, between 28 and 35% of people over 65 suffer at least one fall each year. More than 70% of these falls happen inside the home. And today, falls are the leading cause of loss of independence among older adults worldwide. Many people blame it on bad luck, but in reality, it comes down to a lack of strength, balance, mobility, and physical preparedness. That's why our team created Biological Armor, a complete protocol for people in their 50s, 60s, or 70s who want to make sure they never go through that. Inside the protocol, you'll get a special home exercise program designed to build functional strength, real balance, and reverse years of poor posture and physical neglect without damaging your joints. You'll also learn the habits scientists have identified as common among the populations with the highest life expectancy in the world, habits that less than 1% of the Western population actually practices. Access it now by clicking the pinned link in the first comment of this video, or by pointing your phone's camera at the code appearing on the screen. Exercise number 3, Butterfly Crunch. The Butterfly Crunch is one of the least known exercises on this list, but it plays a very specific role for those over 50. It works the rectus abdominis in a decentralized way, meaning the contraction occurs with the legs apart and the feet together, creating a different challenge for the hip and core stabilizers at the same time. The logic behind this choice is simple. With aging, hip stiffness and weakness of the inner core muscles tend to appear together. Exercises that require the core to work while the hip is in a challenging position create functional adaptations that translate directly into everyday movements. The butterfly position, with the knees open, also reduces tension in the psoas, which tends to become shortened in those who spend a lot of time sitting, forcing the rectus abdominis to work with greater independence. I have observed that people over 50 who perform this exercise regularly report less lower back discomfort during conventional crunches, precisely because working the core with the hips in an open position improves the coordination of these muscle groups. To perform it correctly, lie on your back with the soles of your feet together and your knees open to the sides, as in the butterfly stretch position. Place your hands behind your head or crossed on your chest. Lift your trunk toward your feet, contracting the abdomen. Your lower back should remain in contact with the floor during the upward movement. Rise slowly over 2 seconds, hold for 1 second at the top, and lower over 3 seconds. The eccentric phase, meaning the controlled descent, represents a large part of the strengthening potential of this exercise. Many people rise with effort and drop back down carelessly. That is wasting half of the workout. The secret lies in resisting gravity on the way down just as much as you effort on the way up. A common mistake is pulling the neck with the hands instead of using the abdominal muscles to lift the trunk. If you feel tension in the neck, it is a sign that the abdominal muscles are not doing the primary work. Reduce the range of motion until you build a stronger base. Start with 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions. Progress to 15 to 18 repetitions when the movement becomes fluid and free of compensations. Contraindications. People with sacral pain or sacroiliac instability may feel discomfort in this hip position. Severe spinal osteoporosis is also a contraindication for trunk flexion exercises. Exercise number 4, standing knee raise. The standing knee raise is probably the most underestimated exercise on this list, and perhaps the most functional. Think about it. How many times a day do you need to lift one leg while maintaining balance on the other? Climbing stairs, getting into a car, stepping over a puddle? It is pure real-life movement. After 50, core weakness manifests in a very specific way during these movements. The trunk begins to tilt toward the side of the standing leg, the hip drops on one side, and the spine compensates. This pattern, repeated thousands of times a year, is one of the leading contributors to lower back pain and postural imbalances in older adults. Studies on motor control in adults over 50 show that the ability to keep the trunk stable during unilateral movements is one of the best predictors of functional independence in the following decades. A body that can stabilize on one foot can do a great deal. There is also a less obvious benefit. It actively trains proprioception, which is the nervous system's ability to know where the body is in space. This ability deteriorates with aging and is directly associated with the risk of falls. Training unilateral balance regularly is one of the most effective ways to keep this system working well. To perform it correctly, stand with your feet hip-width apart. Slowly raise your right knee to hip height, keeping your trunk completely upright. Do not tilt to the side. Do not let the hip drop. Hold the position for 2 seconds and lower with control. Repeat on the left side. If you need support initially, lightly hold a chair or wall with your fingertips. The key is not to use the support as a crutch. The goal is to progressively reduce external support until you can perform the movement completely freely. When you reach that point, try doing it with your eyes closed. The absence of visual reference enormously amplifies the challenge for the core stabilizers and improves proprioception. Start with 3 sets of 8 repetitions on each side. Progress to 12 repetitions per side when your balance is solid. Then progressively reduce external support. Contraindications. People with labyrinthitis or frequent dizziness should always perform this exercise with support and preferably near a wall. Knees with moderate to severe arthritis may limit the range of the raise. Before we continue, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Having constant access to science-based information is what will allow you to progress with long-term health in the world of exercise. Exercise number 5, bicycle crunch. The bicycle crunch consistently appears in electromyography studies as one of the exercises with the highest activation for the rectus abdominis, and most importantly, for the obliques. This is relevant because many core routines for those over 50 completely ignore the obliques, which are fundamental muscles for trunk rotation and lateral spinal protection. You will know you are doing it correctly when you feel a specific burn on the side of your abdomen, different from the central sensation of other abdominal exercises. That is the sign the obliques are truly being recruited. The beauty of this exercise lies in its ability to work stability, rotation, and trunk flexion in a single movement. For people over 50, this is especially valuable since rotational stiffness is one of the first functional limitations that appears with sedentary aging. To perform it correctly, lie on your back with your hands behind your head and your knees bent at 90 degrees in the air. Slightly lift your shoulder blades off the floor. Now extend your right leg while rotating your trunk, bringing your right elbow toward your left knee. Do not pull your neck. The rotation should come from the trunk. Alternate sides in a slow, controlled pedaling motion. Each side-to-side change counts as 1 repetition. A mistake I see many people make is turning this exercise into a race. When the pace becomes too fast, the movement loses the real trunk rotation and becomes an elbow swing. This activates the obliques far less and also overloads the neck. Slow and intentional, always. Start with 3 sets of 12 to 16 total repetitions. Progress to 20 repetitions when control is solid, with no neck pain and with real trunk rotation. Contraindications: a cervical herniated disc can be aggravated by neck flexion and rotation exercises. People with this condition should adapt the movement by resting their head on a small folded towel. Exercise number 6, reverse plank. The reverse plank is the opposite face of the conventional plank, and for that very reason it complements core training in a way few exercises can. While the front plank primarily works the anterior core muscles, the reverse plank demands intense contraction of the spinal erectors, glutes, hamstrings, and scapular stabilizers. It is the posterior chain being worked as an integrated system. This is especially important after 50 because the most common postural weakness in this age group is precisely the collapse of the posterior chain. Shoulders that round forward, a lower back that loses its natural curve, glutes that stop supporting the pelvis. The reverse plank is a direct antidote to this pattern. Many people train their core almost exclusively from the front, with variations of crunches and front planks. This creates a functional imbalance that can increase lower back tension instead of reducing it. A truly strong core needs to be worked on all 4 sides: front, lateral, and posterior. The reverse plank takes care of the side most people ignore. I have observed that those who regularly include the reverse plank begin to notice postural improvement within just a few weeks. By strengthening the posterior chain, the body gains the muscular capacity to maintain an upright position without conscious effort. To perform it correctly, sit on the floor with your legs extended in front of you and your hands placed behind your hips, with your fingers pointing toward your feet. Press your palms and heels into the floor and lift your hips until your body forms a straight line from your shoulders to your heels. Keep your neck neutral, looking slightly upward without throwing your head back. Actively squeeze your glutes throughout the entire hold. What many people do not know is that consciously activating the glutes during the reverse plank significantly increases lower back protection. Relaxed glutes transfer all the load to the spinal erectors and the lower back, creating exactly the kind of tension we want to avoid. I recommend starting with 3 sets of 20 to 30 seconds. When you can hold the position without shaking for 30 seconds, progress to 45. Wrist pain is a sign that your fingers should be rotated to the sides, or that you need to first strengthen your wrist flexors. Contraindications: shoulder impingement syndrome and rotator cuff instability are relative contraindications. People with these conditions can perform the variation with their forearms on the floor instead of their palms. Bonus exercise: glute bridge. To close this list, the glute bridge. This exercise is proof that simplicity and effectiveness coexist perfectly in functional training. Few exercises work the relationship between the core, glutes, and lower back stability as directly. And this relationship is exactly what deteriorates most rapidly after 50 in sedentary individuals. The gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body. Many people do not know that, and when it weakens, the consequences go far beyond aesthetics. The pelvis loses support, the lower back starts to compensate, the knees become misaligned, and the walking pattern changes. All of this happens silently over the course of years. The glute bridge is one of the most accessible exercises to reverse this process. Because it is the largest muscle in the body, it also influences resting metabolism and amplifies the afterburn effect following a workout. Larger muscles generate longer-lasting calorie burn after exercise. And when that same muscle also stabilizes the pelvis during walking, preventing the collapse of the opposite knee with each step, we realize that strengthening the glute with the bridge is a preventive action against multiple conditions at the same time. To perform it correctly, lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor at hip width, close to your body, arms alongside your body, palms facing down. Press your feet into the floor and raise your hips until your thighs and trunk form a straight line. At the top, squeeze your glutes intensely for 2 seconds. Lower slowly over 3 seconds. Your lower back should not arch at the top. If it does, your hips have risen too high. Remember that the glute bridge is also a core exercise because it requires the deep abdominal muscles to stabilize the spine throughout the entire movement. It is not just for the glutes. It is integration training. A common mistake is performing the rise quickly and the descent even faster, turning the exercise into an uncontrolled swing. The eccentric phase, the controlled lowering, is where a large part of strength is built. Resist gravity. For beginners, I recommend starting with 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions. When control is complete and the contraction at the top is evident, progress to 15 repetitions. A simple and very effective progression is to add a pause of 3 to 4 seconds at the top of each repetition. Contraindications. People with acute sacral pain or hamstring tendon injury should consult a professional before starting. Severe knee arthritis may limit foot positioning. These 7 exercises form a complete protocol for preserving core strength after 50. You do not need to do them all on the same day. Distribute them throughout the week, prioritizing correct execution over volume. A practical suggestion is to alternate between floor-based exercises, such as the dead bug, the butterfly crunch, and the glute bridge, and weight-bearing ones, such as the mountain climber and the reverse plank. 3 weekly sessions are already enough to produce real adaptations over 4 to 6 weeks. Consistency beats intensity in the long run, always. The core you will have 2 years from now is the result of the choices you make today. If you want to check out the best mobility exercises aimed at reversing years of sitting 12 hours a day, we have a video appearing on screen right now showing each one in detail. Go check it out, and do not forget to look into our biological shielding protocol as well. Thank you for watching all the way through, and God bless you, my friend.